And we are live. Ooh, I crushed it.
Cue the Christmas intro.
Content swap.
Content swap.
Christmas edition.
That wasn't very good. We need to work on that.
I know. I can't think of one.
We'll get that for next week.
Next week's like our last week of Christmas content.
Yeah. Well, welcome back to the Content Swap podcast. You are joined by Parker and
Aaliyah. And our cups of tea.
Yes, we are drinking chamomile tea as we are in the middle of our Christmas swap series.
Yes.
Yes. It is the second week of December, which means this is our second movie of Christmas.
Christmas time, December.
Yes, this is our second Christmas
Holiday.
movie in a series of 3, and I mean, yeah, I don't know.
0 notes.
I know I have 3 lines of notes on my movie that we're about to discuss, and that's because I was just enjoying the movie.
It was a great movie to just enjoy. I don't think I have too many notes either.
Yeah.
But what are we talking about? We're talking about 8-Bit Christmas.
8-Bit Christmas.
Which was what I was assigned.
Yes. 8-Bit Christmas.
Yes. 8-Bit Christmas.
It's a movie.
Yes. It came out in 2021. Why did I say it like that? 2021.
Oh.
2021.
I'm like, what do you mean? Like what? Phonetically correct.
Yeah. And it stars Neil Patrick Harris. And I'm not sure who the other actors in the movie are.
Steve Zahn plays the dad.
Got you.
For those that know who that is.
Yeah. So what is this movie about? This movie is really a tale about a young... So it starts off with Neil Patrick Harris as an adult, and his daughter really wants a phone. And she's like, Dad, I want a phone for Christmas. I want a phone for Christmas. She's using her dad's phone like to call her friends and everything like that. And he's like, you're not getting a phone. And so she's like, please, 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 please. And so they go to her grandma's house, which is his mom. And grandma's not home. So he's like, you know what? Let me show you something. She's like, okay. They go, and he sits down, and he shows her a Nintendo 64.
No.
What?
A Nintendo Entertainment System. The NES system. Nintendo 64 came out in like 1996. This
I thought that
movie
was the same
takes place in 1988.
My bad. I thought they were the same thing.
Or, well, this...
It was like the first part
this
is modern
confusing.
day.
Yes, this is modern day, and Neil Patrick Harris is going to...
Yeah, let me get to that part.
All right.
Let me get to that part. So, sorry. A Nintendo NES. We literally have the Lego set of it. It's great. My
and
bad.
it's not a Nintendo 64.
Not a Nintendo 64. I'm mistaken. Again, I'm not a gamer. So he shows her this, and he's like, you know what? When I was a child, I really wanted this Nintendo, and I'm going to tell you the whole story because I wanted this way worse than you wanted a phone. She's like, not true. He's like, well, sit down and listen to the story. So then we travel back into the 80s. And the whole movie is the storytelling of him trying to get his hands on a Nintendo for Christmas. Because his parents are like, no, we're not getting you a video game. They like ruin children's brains, yada yada. We're not doing that. And so he has to find alternative means to get a Nintendo. And yeah, that's the whole movie. He gets into all kinds of like trouble just trying to get his hands on this. So before we like dive into like maybe some of the parts, overall my thoughts, I loved this. It was super cute, super nostalgic, even though I'm not a gamer and also did not grow up in the 80s, but just like bringing you back to like those really popular toys that you really wanted. And like before technology kind of took over everything, like we grew up with like toys you just played with, not devices. And so it's super nostalgic to like have this movie of a kid who really wants this like super popular toy. It's something that's really hard to get. Like back in the day, I know like it was super hard to get like these newest like Bratz dolls or something because parents were just like Black Friday, like
things were
swarming
flying
to,
off the
yeah,
shelves.
literally. Like
I mean, that's still happening now with like PS5s.
Yeah.
2 years after it's launched.
Yes. But
Yeah.
it feels different, you know? Like, I don't know. And like now you can just order things online. Like it wasn't like, I mean, I guess you could
had to-
back then.
Yeah. But it's like that that old tale of like,
Going to the
Arnold
store.
Schwarzenegger trying to find Turbo Man at the store for his child in Jingle All the Way.
Yeah. And like, do parents even like go out and buy Christmas gifts for their kids nowadays? Like, do they go to Target to get what they need to get?
Yeah. I mean, even in like 2007, parents were like jumping through hoops just to get Nintendo Wiis for people. Mm-hmm. So, the Nintendo got to get my hands on this, mentality has been, what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
Reverberated through the generations. That's not the right word, but
yeah.
Actually, well, it's interesting you say that because the parents don't actually have a hard time with getting the Nintendo. It's the kid who really wants the Nintendo. There doesn't seem to be a hard... If the parents want to get them the Nintendo, they could.
Yes.
But the parents want to get the sister a Cabbage Patch
doll.
Kid.
Yeah. And they're gone.
That is really hard to get.
Yeah. But like that's what that's like this story shows like all these bits and pieces of Christmas that like are just they bring you back.
Yeah. It's basically a Christmas story but for a different generation.
Yeah. I literally wrote that down.
Yeah.
I was like, this is literally a modern day Christmas story. Where did I write that?
Yeah.
Feels like a modern day Christmas story. That's my first note.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's supposed to be. Is a Christmas story of, a kid really wants this thing for Christmas and they will go
no.
through any means necessary to get their hands on it.
Yeah. Yeah, so to dive a bit deeper, I guess, into the story of his childhood. So like I mentioned, the kid, or him as a kid, wanted this Nintendo. His parents said no because they thought it was bad for kids. And so he has this, like, there's this kid at school who is, like, rich, and I guess his parents just get him, like, the newest things all the time.
Timmy Keene.
Yeah, and this kid sucks.
159 million %.
Yes, he's super spoiled. He is like very destructive. Like if things don't go his way, he will ruin everything in his path.
Yeah.
But he's really funny because all the kids show up to his house and he selects 10 kids to like come hang out with him and like try out the new thing
Nintendo,
that he has.
Something.
Yeah. And so he has his hands on a Nintendo and all the kids, including young Neil Patrick Harris, show up and they're like, we have to like go play with it. And he gets chosen along with some of his friends. They go in, they play, and they're like, this is amazing. And so there are a few different ways in which he tries to get his own Nintendo. One of those ways being through selling wreaths. So this kid who is one of his friends, like lies a lot. That's his character. And so this kid comes to young Neil Patrick Harris, and says, like, oh, what is it, like Boy Scouts or something? They're selling.
Their Boy Scout troop is, they're holding a wreath selling competition. Whoever can sell the most wreaths,
gets a Nintendo.
Yeah.
And so he and all the kids, even this like little girl who has a brother, like. At one point, she like pretends to be a Boy Scout. So,
there are these two twins, and they're like pretending to be each other, and like doubling up their efforts to try and sell as many wreaths as possible.
Which I loved her character. She was so adorable.
Yeah.
So everyone's like going out to sell wreaths, and my first thought was like, okay, if every single kid, it seemed like every kid in the neighborhood was in this troop. Wreaths. Yeah, I'm like none of you are going to be able to sell enough wreaths because you're going to the same people.
Yeah.
So it's like, who gets there first? But he comes up, he gets help from his sister. So his sister comes to him and is like, look, I'll help you sell these wreaths. I'll help you figure out your plan, but I need you to do something for me. His little sister, at first, I was like, oh, she's a snitch. I don't like her. 2 seconds later, I was like, I love her. She's fantastic.
Yeah, she's self-interested. And she's
very snarky, and I love that. But she was like, I need you to convince mom and dad to get me a Cabbage Patch doll. I want one with red hair and freckles. And so he's like, fine. Like, what do I need to do? And she tells him to go to like the oldest people in the neighborhood because the older people are going to buy more.
Well, and she's like, where can you find all these old people?
Right.
And go to the nursing home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so he's like, cool. So he does that. He ends up winning this competition. And so he gets first place and he's like, yeah, like, well, let's go. Like, I get a Nintendo. They lift up what the prize is, and it's like a whole collection of encyclopedias.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And he's like, what the heck?
All the kids in the Boy Scout troop are losing their minds because they thought that they were going to win a Nintendo.
Yeah. And so he's like, what the heck? Where is the Nintendo? And it turns out all the parents had pretty much like protested against a Nintendo. And so the Boy Scout troop leader was like, oh, well, we're not getting a Nintendo as this prize.
Yeah, so what happened was the kids all went to Timmy Keen's house one time, and Timmy Keen had a Power Glove, which was like a new Nintendo NES system peripheral that you could use to play the game, which infamously does not function well at all. But he's like, oh, I've got the Power Glove. I'm going to win this fighting game. And so Timmy Keen is using the Power Glove, and he's fighting against the little girl that you mentioned that you like, one of the twins. And they're fighting against each other in this fighting game while hanging out in his basement. And she ends up beating him, and all the other kids are like, ooh, you got beaten by a girl. And Timmy Keen, you know, being the spoiled kid that he is, freaks out and like does like a flying kick.
Yeah, he like kicks the TV.
He kicks the TV, and the TV like lands on his dog.
And this is like one of those big box TVs.
Oh,
like,
yeah, one of those heavy,
yeah,
like 100-pound TVs.
Yeah.
The TV falls off its stand and like lands on the dog. Which at the
laugh.
Yeah.
So bad.
Well, at the time they make you believe like the dog's dead. But
yeah.
it turns out the dog lives.
Fine. Yeah.
So if you go on, doesthedogdie.com, it will say a dog gets injured, but not dead. Anyway, so because of that incident, Timmy Keen's podiatrist father, he like finds out that Timmy was diagnosed with something like ADH, something, super rare. And it's like they're talking about ADHD, and he's like, oh, it's super rare, which is funny because nowadays, like, a lot more people are being diagnosed with ADHD. But anyway, he is like he gives this whole presentation to all of the parents, saying like, this is what happened to my kid. Well, I gave him video games.
Opinion. Yeah. Like he's like,
I'm a doctor,
right? Yeah. As if he's like a psychiatrist. He's not.
Right. He's a podiatrist. Yeah. That's a foot doctor. So he convinces all the parents, and all the parents, it being the 80s, are like, oh no, and so they're like, video game over, like that's their protest slogan. And so all the adults in town are like, no Nintendo
games. Yeah. And they're like trying to stop the local stores from selling it. They're like, take it off the shelves.
Yeah. And you have to keep in mind, like, this is a time when video games were not a thing. So like a Nintendo Entertainment System, that's the beginning of people owning video game consoles in their homes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he doesn't get the Nintendo from selling the wreaths.
Yes, but he does get encyclopedias.
Yes. And so, cut to a little bit later, and they decide him and his friends come up with another plan to get a Nintendo. And so this plan is basically they're going on a school field trip to Chicago. And the plan is basically received, so I think it's the girl who's a twin who gets like baseball cards.
Oh, yeah. So during their birthday, they open up a pack of baseball cards.
Yeah.
And there's like a misprint. There's a misprint card where this guy has like the F word on the bottom of his baseball bat on his card, which they were supposed to edit out on the baseball card. But because it's left in, it's card
worth
becomes
money.
Rare.
Yeah. And so they're like, we've got this baseball card, let's sell it, and we can buy ourselves a Nintendo.
Yep.
While we're on our school trip. So they create this plan to there's a friend of theirs, a kid who is allergic to SpaghettiOs, which is like, what is that possible?
Yeah, there's always that one kid that's allergic to SpaghettiOs.
Oh my gosh!
So I think they also say, like, when defining that kid's character, he's like, and he probably has to go home soon or something. And then that kid immediately is like, I think I have to go home soon.
Yeah, that's funny. So they are like, you're gonna be our like distraction. And so they have him.
What do you mean? So,
like when they're on the bus. Yeah. I'm explaining like how they're gonna get this Nintendo. So they went on this field trip. They're on the bus and they're like, you're gonna be our distraction. We need you to like chug a bunch of SpaghettiOs. And they're like, we can time, like, we know how long you'll be sick for, and that will give us enough time to go buy a Nintendo. So he's a distraction. He starts vomiting because he just ate a bunch of SpaghettiOs. And our main kid, who's like young Neil Patrick Harris, takes off, like gets off the back of the bus and goes to the store to get a Nintendo. And he successfully, after like avoiding these like parents that he knows and everything like that, successfully gets a Nintendo. Yeah. And he only has like a few seconds to get back on the bus before it takes off. And so he's running out, slips on a patch of ice. The Nintendo goes flying and a big old truck runs over the Nintendo.
It's actually, I'm pretty sure it's the bus.
Oh, was it the bus?
That the kids are on.
I thought the bus had already left.
No, yeah. The bus starts moving.
Yeah.
And it ends up being the thing that runs over the Nintendo that he just bought.
Yeah. So he has no Nintendo. Again. And so at that point, he's just like, bruh, like, there's no way I can get this Nintendo. And so Christmas comes. They unwrap their gifts. He's like, I know I don't have a Nintendo. This sucks. But a gift falls from like behind a wall or something. I don't know. It just came out of nowhere.
There's like an extra present that hasn't been opened yet.
Yeah. And it's from his like uncle who lives in Japan. And so he's like, oh, snap. This might be a Nintendo.
Yeah. It's the perfect shape.
Yeah. He's like, it looks just like the box a Nintendo would be in. So he unwraps it. And it's a Light Bright, which granted, I would have been excited because I loved Light Brights. But he was not.
You cannot get nearly as much entertainment out of a Light Bright as you can in a Nintendo Entertainment System.
Very true. So it's a Light Bright. So he's like, ugh. And then after that, his dad is like, I want to show you something. So they go outside behind their house. And there's this beautiful tree house that his dad has been working on for such a long time. And his dad's kind of like, to give more context, his dad's kind of like this very like strong-willed man. Like what he says is what goes.
Man of the house. Kind of vibes.
Not necessarily like the warmest person.
Right.
And so.
Always building something but never finishing anything.
Yeah. And so this becomes a really cute moment of like, oh, his dad put like his heart into this thing for me to enjoy. And now I get to share this like space with him. And yeah, so like the story, he doesn't get a Nintendo and he going back into the modern time where he's with
Back to the Future.
Where he's talking to his daughter. He's like, I never got that Nintendo until like way later when I like got it on my own. He's like, basically it's a story of like, even if you don't get what you want, like the most important part is like being with those you love. And like, it's not all about gifts kind of ordeal.
Yeah. I mean, like there were a few moments with his dad that, play out throughout the movie that kind of, help you develop more of like a connection to their relationship. So it is kind of like this heartfelt thing when his dad reveals the treehouse and then it's, Back to the Future and we realize like, oh, his dad is now gone. And so, he misses, getting to spend time with his dad, despite the fact that his dad was like, you don't need a Nintendo. His relationship with his dad is ultimately more important than the Nintendo itself. Yeah. That's the whole movie. Yeah, I mean, there's like little stuff in between and whatnot, but it's basically like everything that you just said.
Yeah, I tried to get through it quick.
Yeah, there's some stuff in between, but I mean,
some shenanigans, just child shenanigans.
Yeah, I mean, I really like all the different characters that they put in the movie. You know, not all of them serve the story, but it serves the setting, I think. Yeah.
And you need you need the little, like, you need the friends, because you need to, like, have that buildup of, like, everyone wants this thing, and, like, if you didn't have those friends in it, then it would be like, what's so special?
There's, like, even a big kid who's in their grade.
He's literally, like, a grown adult.
He's literally, I don't know, like
16,
17.
I'm like, how is that legal?
Right. This guy got held back so many times. He's still in, like, the 5th grade. That was fun, but literally his last name was Jagorsky, and I literally wrote, my first and only note when we were watching the movie was, I wrote, the Jagorsky kid is dangerous.
I'm like, I feel like it's illegal for someone to be that old to be around such, like, young children in a learning setting.
Yeah, it's like there's not a lot to this movie. It's just very cozy, Christmas. It's cute. It does have all these different characters that kind of, like, flesh out this childhood experience. I really like it.
Yeah.
The movie takes place in Batavia, Illinois, outside of Chicago, and I looked it up. The screenwriter grew up in Batavia, Illinois. Wow. And so I believe it's supposed to be kind of like a reflection of his experience growing up in the 80s and wanting a Nintendo Entertainment System. And there's also, in terms of other trivia, I read that this movie was on the 2019 Blacklist, which sounds bad, but turns out the 2019 Blacklist is, like, the most liked screenplays that haven't been produced yet. And so, yeah, it was on that list. And then I guess somebody at HBO said, let's produce it. And then now it's on HBO Max as of last year, 2021. And it's just, it's a cute movie. It's a Christmas story, but for a different generation.
Yeah. I will say, though, the movie, especially in the parts that are, like, the, back the 80s parts.
Yeah.
Which is pretty much the whole movie. It doesn't feel very 80s. I feel like...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like, I think to sell the 80s, you really got to get, like, 80s fashion.
Right.
And all the extras are wearing, like, modern day clothes. And, like, there's only one character that stands out to me of, like, that was like, I could tell that was the 80s, because it's, like, the like, spoiled brat kid's sister comes out, and, she has a big perm, and, like, that was very 80s. But I don't know. It doesn't... I think it could have had more of, like, nostalgia if it pinned that down a little bit more.
But, like, we didn't grow up in the 80s, so, people weren't always wearing, like, high fashion 80s garb all the time.
True, but I think of, like, Stranger Things, where it's like...
Sure, but they're, like, just wearing normal clothes.
Well, like, but the kids will have, like, their shirts tucked in, and it's like, that's such, like, a specific thing, or, like... You know?
That's true. I mean, in this movie, the kid was, like, super concerned about he ended up with girls' boots.
Yeah, purple boots.
Or purple boots. That to me felt reminiscent of childhood.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like in terms of time period, I wasn't grasping the, like, 80s-ness of it. Like, I feel like Stranger Things does a really good job of, like, obviously it's not overt 80s. Like, it's, like, probably more accurate than some of these, like, but I don't know, because if you watch 80s movies that were made in the 80s, like, this is, like, they did dress a certain way, like, the fashion was a certain way.
Yeah, but this isn't
I mean, obviously that's, like, Hollywood
movie. It's a movie that takes place in the 80s, and it's, like, kids in the 80s.
Yeah.
If you watch an 80s movie, like a movie that takes place, like a movie that was made in the 80s, then people are going to be dressed up like they're in the 80s, because it's the costume design of what people want to see in movies in the 80s.
Yeah.
This is the costume design of what normal people in Batavia, Illinois wore in their everyday life in the 80s.
I guess. I just wasn't 100% sold. I didn't get the 80s vibes.
It seems to me
it's obviously not important.
You wanted big city fashion
No.
in a small town movie.
No, but like small things, like the type of, if someone wears glasses, the type of glasses that they're wearing, if like, or like the kids have their shirts tucked in, and like things like that.
I don't get a sense that the budget was like huge on this movie.
Yeah.
You know, like they're in a mall in two different scenes that I think are supposed to be two different malls that are clearly the same mall. So like, you know.
Yeah. I mean, obviously it's a very small thing to pick apart, but yeah, it was just something that like I noticed when I was watching it, and I was like, this doesn't feel very 80s, but I mean, I'm still here for the movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's a simple little Christmas movie, and I recommend you check it out.
Same.
It's worth your time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, me either.
Nice.
You want to just move on?
Yeah.
All right. I've also got like no notes on this next one. So for this week's assignment, you gave me a Netflix limited series called Dash and Lily. It came out in 2020, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So Dash and Lily is a love story rom-com show. It's about 8 episodes. It takes place in New York around Christmas time. Mm-hmm. It follows 2 teenage characters, Dash and Lily. They are going to fall in love by the end of the story, if you cannot tell. Now, they don't know each other, but they both really like to go to this bookstore called The Strand. And Dash is like this, I don't know how to describe him other than jaded teenager who has an opinion about everything, but he's so negative. Mm-hmm. He low-key seems like he sucks to be around. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, he like starts off and he's like, Christmas is the most detestable time of the year. And so my notes that I took is things that you've said as we watch this. And the funniest thing is, as soon as he said that it's the most detestable time, you said, ugh, get over yourself, ugly. And I thought that was so
funny. That's funny. Yeah, no, as soon as he said it's the most detestable time of the year, I'm like, yeah, this guy sucks. Like, yeah, get over yourself. Like, you know, just because, like, he has the personality of somebody that's like, because I think this sucks, you should think that this sucks too. Mm. And I don't like that about him. Mm-hmm. He is super cynical, super full of himself. Not full of himself, but just like, just like my way or the highway. But like at the same time, he has like a soft side that like girls can like. Like
you get the vibe that he thinks he's like better, or, like above other people.
Yeah, right. And you know, it gets better as he connects with Lily through the show, but I would ultimately say I think Dash has a lot of growth in his future. Now, Lily is this awesome young girl who really likes books and loves Christmas. She's very cheery. She's got a very connected family. Many of her extended family members work throughout the city. One of them even like dresses up like Santa Claus at Macy's. And she has a lot of people in her life that care about her, whereas Dash has like parents that don't seem to care about him. Lily is kind of the opposite, and she has a brother, and her brother kind of convinces her like, you need to go do something this year, because normally she loves spending time with her family during Christmas, but this year her parents are going to Fiji, and she's going to be at home. Oh, and her grandpa is going to visit his blonde girlfriend in Florida. So she's at home in New York City with her brother, and she's like sad, and all she does during her Christmas vacation is go caroling with like her local caroling troupe, which is just, you know, an assortment of New Yorkers that she's close to.
And she started that troupe because she really doesn't have friends.
Right.
And so, like, in order for her to, like, do something, she was like, I'm going to start a caroling troupe. Like, that sounds like fun. And then these people kind of become her friends.
Right. But her brother is like, yeah, that's super sad. You should, you know, go do something.
That's sad. Go do something.
Yeah. And so he's like, I'm going to help you find love this year. And him and his boyfriend that he met on Tinder, I guess, are at the house and convince her to create this scavenger hunt in a red notebook. And this red notebook is really the focal point of the story as a communication device between both Dash and Lily. So what she does is she creates this scavenger hunt, and then she leaves the book with the scavenger hunt in it on the shelf in the Strand. And her cousin also happens to work at the Strand. So one day, Dash finds this notebook, opens it up, starts reading through it, and he's like doing all of the steps in the scavenger hunt, which includes, like, I don't even remember. He has to do a public reading at one point.
Well, it's not a public reading. He sings the song.
He sings a song by Joni Mitchell. Yeah. And, like, he just has to get out of his comfort zone. He has to kind of, like, put clues together to finish a sentence. And then, like, ultimately he ends up kind of having to, he has to write, like, what he thinks about Christmas or something in it. And so, you know, Dash being the jaded teenager that thinks he's all that, he writes that. He's like, wow, you know, this girl in this book, she had me do a public reading. She's got to be just as cynical as I am. You know, she's a kindred spirit. She must also hate Christmas. And so he's like, Christmas sucks.
Yeah. He's like, she's sadistic. Who would make me, like, do all these things?
Yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, Dash is just full of assumptions, and he fills that out, and then he, like, leaves it for her to find, and she is like, OMG, he hates Christmas.
It's never gonna work.
And it's never gonna work. I can't follow up on this. And her brother is like, just do it anyway.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of turns into this game of not cat and mouse, but, like, just back and forth of they are writing to each other and asking each other to do certain things in this notebook, and then leaving it and, like, giving instructions on where to leave it to each other. And they develop this connection through this notebook. And the people around them are, like, her extended family members are meeting him, and, like, his friend is meeting her. But the two of them, Dash and Lily themselves, have never communicated outside of this notebook. But everybody in their lives seems to be aware of the other because they are helping with this little notebook adventure. And that's all, like, super cute and stuff.
That's all super cute and stuff.
I mean, it is cute. It is.
Yeah.
It sounds like a dumb Netflix limited series about Christmas and teenage love, because it is. And
that's exactly what we want.
That's exactly, if that's what you're looking for, that's exactly what you're getting. It is cute. Like, I would consider watching it again every year, or every other year. You know, like, I would totally watch this again. It's 8 episodes, and we watched it all on Monday.
In one night.
Yeah.
They're only like 20, 30 minutes.
25, 30 minutes. Yeah. So, I mean, it just feels like a really long movie, honestly. Like, it's like a 3-hour movie, practically, when you add it all up. And it was good. I really liked it.
You got
invested. Like, yeah.
I was, like, ready for bed, and you were like, but there's only 2 more episodes.
Yeah, no, it was like, what was it, 11 o'clock?
Yeah.
And we were about to go to bed,
like,
and I'm like, 25 minutes per episode. There's only 50 minutes left. We can finish by midnight. And you're like, all right. And so that's what we did.
Yep.
Yeah, my excuse me. Yeah, my notes end pretty early. Like, I think I stopped taking notes after the first episode. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, there's a bunch of, like, extra stuff in there. Like, there's kind of a love rectangle happening at one point. Like, Dash has his ex-girlfriend who moved away to go to Brazil and then is now coming back. And, like, the whole reason they broke up was because of the distance, but now she's back. And it's like, oh, but he's connecting to this girl, Lily, through this notebook, and he really cares about her. So it's like, what are we going to do? And then Lily used to have a crush on this guy, T-Bode, and...
Did she have a crush on him?
I said she used to have a crush on him.
No, but I'm saying, T-Bode. Did she used to have a crush on him?
She 100% used to have a crush on him.
Okay.
But then, like, when in middle school, he, like, laughed at her friendship bracelets that he made for everybody. Rude, yeah. But then when they're older, he, like, you know, he pops back up into the picture, and he's like, haha, you're so weird.
And she's like, stop calling me that.
She is, like, triggered by him calling her weird because he ruined her life when they were 12. But then he's also like, hey, because she, you know, confronts him about it, and she's like, you ruined my life when I was 12, and I didn't deserve that. And he's like, well, you know what? I was also 12. So
like, I didn't know what I was saying.
I'm dumb, and I feel really bad. Let me take you out. And she's like, oh.
Okay.
Yeah. So now she's going out with T-Bode, who, I mean, he low-key kind of sucks.
He's strange.
Yeah.
He's weird. He says weird things.
He says weird things. He's a weird guy.
Yeah.
He acts like he's 21. He's literally drinking at a bar by the end.
Alone,
yeah.
And, like, trying to hit on people, and they're like...
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. But yeah, so there's some of that going on of, like, oh, now she's developing a connection with this, like, weird guy, and she's confronting her own demons, and Dash is confronting his demons. Yeah. But, you know, by and large, at the end of the whole thing, they end up meeting, and of course, you know, there has to be a story arc, right? So they meet eventually, but it's, like, not on the best of terms, and they get upset at each other because they've been developing this connection and they care about each other, but now they're, like, mad at each other. It's like, no, I don't want this to be how it was. Yeah. No.
They're like, this is all a lie. We're playing ourselves. We thought this would work. Clearly it won't.
Yeah. But then they figure it out, because of course they do, because it's Christmas. This is a love story on Netflix in a limited series with teenagers. So yeah.
Also, Lily finds out that her parents weren't just going to Fiji for fun for a second honeymoon like they told her. Actually, he got a job there, and they're moving at New Year's. On New Year's.
Her dad got a job there.
Yeah. They're leaving on New Year's to move to Fiji, and so that also throws a wrench in this whole love thing.
So she's like, oh no, I'm gonna have to move to Fiji, and which is pretty weird to me that her dad's job offer would be all the way in Fiji. But, you know, if you're really trying to take it to an extreme as a writing device of, like, she's going to have to be very far away, oh no, then yeah, I guess Fiji works. What is he gonna go work on Survivor or something? I don't know.
I mean, I'm sure there's things in Fiji.
Sure, 100% there's things at Fiji. I just don't know what does her dad do that's gonna take him all the way to Fiji.
I don't know.
Given he can't find work at the moment in America. This is weird. I don't know. It's oddly specific. But anyway, yeah, I mean, Dash and Lily themselves as characters, I initially was like, I don't think they would have chemistry. And you know what? It doesn't matter. They didn't need to have chemistry because they don't even meet until the end of the show. They just had to film it enough for it to be cute. And you know what? It was.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just funny. Like, they don't share any scenes together throughout the show until the very end. Mm-hmm. And it does end up being cute and, you know, all that. I mean, I still think Dash has some work to do.
Well, they both, like, and that's why they're, like, both on such polar opposites, because it's like, he's super negative and pessimistic about everything in life, which is not great. But she's also very overly positive and like doesn't allow herself to feel negative emotions, which is also not great. And so
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, and so the whole point, and that's what they try and like portray as they do these like dares from the book, and like they're trying to help each other get out of their comfort zone. And Dash is constantly like, you need to feel emotions. Like at some point he has her go to this like art place where they like make a craft, and then like she's supposed to like break it and like get out her feelings.
Which she doesn't even end up doing.
She doesn't, but within that same episode or an episode later, she gets really upset and like knocks over all these like snowmen and just like fights the snowmen. And so it's supposed to be like her, like, oh, that's her breakthrough moment. Like she finally let out how she was actually feeling. And then she's also like trying to get him to open up, to relax, to like let go a little bit and just like be present and live in the moment and enjoy things and find the joy in things. And so, yeah, that's like the thread carrying it all.
Yeah. I mean, I would say, I don't know, Dash has more work to do than she does, in my opinion. But,
yeah.
Like, I see it as she will learn her lessons just by living her life. Mm-hmm. Whereas he
has to be more conscious about changing.
Yes, because nihilism is his whole personality. Mm-hmm. And if he doesn't fix that, then he's gonna lose. He's gonna be lost.
Yeah.
That's kind of my perspective. He also has those like always tired eyes.
Yeah.
That girls like.
Yeah, the sleepy eyes.
Yeah. Which made me not like him. Just not a big fan of Dash. Honestly. Like, I would not... Yeah. I don't think I would be his friend.
Yeah. He definitely gets away with a lot of stuff. Like, he kind of treats his friend really bad.
Yeah.
At some point, and then kind of just, like his friend is great. His friend, like, oftentimes will express like, Dash, you need to like think about things in this way, or like you need to be cognizant of like you're doing this and it's not good.
Yeah.
Like, especially when it came to his ex, he's like, your ex is not good for you because of XYZ reasons. Here's how you are when you're with her. You need to notice that. And like, so his friend is fantastic and like the biggest supporter. Dash is not the best friend. Like, Dash is just trying to like get what he needs. Mm. And that comes to like a clash between them at some point. But that, like, conflict resolved way too easily. Like, the friend was just like, oh, well, like, let's be friends again. And it's...
Well, the way that they settle the conflict is that he goes to go find his friend, and his friend is at a Jonas Brothers concert with their other friends.
Yeah.
And he's like, I need you to forgive me because we're friends or whatever. And he's like, why should I forgive you? And he's
not
like...
Not even because they're friends. He's like, I need you to forgive me because I need your help.
Yeah, like, because I need your help. And he's like, why should I forgive you? And he's like, I came to a Jonas Brothers concert for you.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, yeah, you did come to a Jonas Brothers concert for me. All right, what can I do to help? And it's like, that's not how that works.
Like, I think that's like that's the part that rubs me the wrong way the most. It's just like, that like his friendship with this kid.
I sacrificed some of my toxic masculinity because I care so much about you, so help me.
Literally, yeah. Like, Dash gets away with behavior that he should not get away with, and that sucks, but still it's a cute show.
Yeah, it's still cute, but yeah, that part needed some work, but
yeah,
overall, yeah, it's pretty good. I
have some facts if you want those.
Kids are cultured. I want to go, if his friend's pizza place existed, I would go there all the time because they sell pizza and movies.
Yeah. Yeah. It was the perfect place. I wonder if that place exists.
I mean,
you were like,
I doubt it.
I was like, oh, the Strand's a real place. You're like, it probably not. And I was like, it literally is.
Whatever. I do have a note that's like, why are we acting like there would be such a big bookstore in New York City with an open microphone in New York on Christmas with very few people in it?
Yeah, that's probably not likely.
Yeah, that just doesn't exist.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other notes before I jump into?
I thought some parts of it were cheesy, but in a good way. Before the story even started, I wrote Dash looks like he sucks. I have a note that says that. Mm-hmm. And the amount of people that they have to hand the book to seems like a lot of coordination that I think should have gone wrong sooner than it ended up going wrong.
And even when it did go wrong, it got resolved very quickly and very easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But aside from that, it's worth a watch. It's Christmas content.
Yeah.
Check it out.
So some other things you said that I thought were really funny, and honestly, these are kind of like they happen back to back. So at some point, Lily texts her old bully, who she's like kind of connecting with, and tells T-Bode, and says that she wanted him to kiss her when they had like at the end of this party that they went to together. And you said, "No, I'm gonna throw up."
Yeah.
And so then,
like, she should not want to kiss him. He sucks.
Yeah. And so then, like a minute later, he shows up to where she was at when she texted him. She's drunk, by the way. They're at a bar. She's at a bar.
Yeah. At this point in the story, she's drunk on Christmas at a bar.
Yeah. And so he shows up and he kisses her. Well, of course, at the time that they kiss, Dash walks in and sees her. And this is what led to their whole conflict where they're like, oh, this was like all too good to be true, yada, yada.
Yeah.
But when that happened, you stated again, you were like, oh, I'm going to puke. It was just so cute how invested you were. And you were so stressed out. You were like, I can't watch this. I'm going to be sick.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I wasn't going to be sick. It was just my way of kind of saying like, I don't want this to be happening right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So some actual facts. So everything was indeed filmed in New York in order to make it very authentic. And the producers and the directors, I'm assuming, had this giant map with pins in all the locations so that the geography made sense. And there's like a call to it in the show when Dash is talking about what's wrong with Home Alone 2, and he's like, geographically this does not make sense, like how he would be able to go to all these places like in New York, that's just like, it's just inaccurate. And then he's like, quickly, because everyone's just staring at him like, why are you ruining this, he's like, but Home Alone 2 is great. But the creators of the show wanted it to make sense in terms of like how would they feasibly get around places. New York. The show got permission, so the show, like, obviously the Strand is a super popular place in New York. They also went into the Morgan Library, and apparently it's really hard to film anything in the Morgan Library. They haven't let someone film anything in there since 1981 for the movie Ragtime, which was Oscar nominated. I've never heard of it, but Ragtime. Yeah. So it's been a while.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah. I imagine it is extremely difficult to film anything in New York, which is why like no one does it really.
Right.
But they mentioned they had like a coffee shop scene, and so obviously they had an actor playing a barista, and like New Yorkers were trying to order from the actor, and he's like, I'm just an actor. I can't help you.
Okay, so they like filmed in New York locations.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Everything's filmed in New York.
I see. So maybe that pizza shop does exist.
That's why I'm like, maybe it does exist. It could.
Yeah.
And so, speaking of locations, every night that they filmed in the Strand, they said that the crew members, so they would film when the Strand closed, obviously, and they would get done filming when it was time to reopen. So they would shoot throughout the night. Ugh. And they said that the crew members, because they spent so much time in the bookstore, like at the end of every time they filmed, would just have a collection of books they wanted to purchase when it opened, and that there would just be a line of crew members like waiting to purchase books once it reopened.
That's cute.
Yeah. So in terms of this red notebook, there was a giant box of red notebooks.
I bet.
Yeah. And there was one woman, her name is Julia Goldman. I don't know. I forget what she did on the set. But she had to handwrite all of those like notes back and forth between Dash and Lily, and she wrote both of their like dialogue in 2 different handwritings. And they like, whoever, I think it was the producer, it was like, I would just look over at her and she's just like furiously like writing all of these like notes in all these notebooks. I'm like, that sucks.
Why would they need to do that for multiple notebooks?
Or maybe they didn't do it for multiple notebooks. I don't know. I probably just made an assumption. But
it should be whichever notebook is necessary to the scene at the time, you know?
That's true. But I don't know. I guess if something happened to one of the notebooks, then they needed the other one. And
yeah, you could make copies, but like,
yeah,
it would be, yeah.
I don't know how it worked.
There's just an efficient way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I hope that's what they did.
We'll see. Or I guess we won't see. We won't know. Another 2 last fun facts. So Nick Jonas was an executive producer and played a role in choosing a lot of the music that was in the show.
Yeah, Nick Jonas pops up as like himself at one point when they're planning like, what are we gonna do to
get Lily back?
And they're chilling inside, like they're at the Jonas Brothers concert, and they go to have this conversation in like his trailer.
Yeah, which like, how did they get there?
Right. And then he pops in and is like, "Yeah, man, you need to do this."
When I proposed to my
wife, it was not like a this. It was like I had to think. I had to dig deep. It's like
dumb.
Why are the Jonas Brothers here telling us how to get married?
How to get married? That's funny. I don't know.
Well, it's like this teen. It's just so funny to me that it's like these teens trying to figure out their love story, and it's like the Jonas Brothers are like, when I got married, you know? Because like when the Jonas Brothers were big in like 2010, like when Kevin got married, that was like very much a big deal. Like all of them, they're like very religious, right? And it was like a big thing.
They had like promise rings.
They had promise rings, and like it was a very like marriage is a very big deal to them, and that was kind of like part of their like shtick as a group. I'm not saying it's like bad that they were religious or anything. It's just like that's just how they kind of like navigated that whole like romance element of the Jonas Brothers as like a brand image. And so it's just so funny to me that now in like 2020 he's like, when I got married, and he's like saying that to teenagers who are like dealing with their own love story, and I just like, that's on brand for the Jonas Brothers.
That's funny.
Yeah
I don't know. I will say that Christmas song they sang, I love that song. I play it in the shop when I am working at the bookstore, which the customers probably hate me for it, but I play that song all the time because it's just so cute. And it's catchy. And so the last note is, so apparently, I didn't notice this, but maybe you did. Dash's clothing gets more festive as time goes on, and that's supposed to be representative of like Lily is bringing him out of his shell, and like he's starting to experience joy more, and so like he's not wearing as muted of tones. There's more red, more Christmassy things, and yeah. I think it's subtle.
I think I saw that.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then when he lets his ex-girlfriend choose his outfit for him at one point, and it's like more back on the muted tones, I think.
Yeah. I will say his friend group they have to be so
uber
wealthy.
Rich. Yeah.
So wealthy. I'm like, they're like, let's go to Bergdorf's and get an outfit. I'm like, I probably wouldn't step in. I don't even know what Bergdorf's is, and that's probably because I can't afford anything there.
Yeah. I will say I did envy at one point. Dash was like, my mom thinks I'm at my dad's. My dad thinks I'm at my mom's, and I'm all alone in my dad's like nice home theater.
Yeah.
And like I have no expectations from anybody, and I just got me and my movies and like the New York skyline outside my window.
Yeah.
I was like, dang, what a life to be living. That just seemed like nice.
Yeah. No.
So I got that.
Yeah.
But also,
that would be nice.
like, don't be such a nihilist.
I don't think there's anything like, okay, so in my personal opinion, one of my favorite Christmases was actually during the pandemic, because it was just me and my mom and my dad, and we just sat and watched movies. And that was it. And it was like the best Christmas ever because you are like completely, you can fully enjoy it.
Yeah.
And not be like, okay, we open gifts, but like we need to clean because we have people coming over and like all this stuff's happening. So
no, I love that.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that's all great. I'm just saying like, despite that, like he is doing that because he is literally like closing off his connections to people and doesn't want to be doing anything festive.
Yeah.
So that part, I'm like, hey, maybe lighten up, dude. But also at the same time, I respect your choice,
your want for space.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I agree. So that's all I have. Do you want to go ahead and make our assignments? This is the last time we'll do a holiday themed one.
Yeah. And then we'll be, after this next week, we'll be gone for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it'll be like the new year.
Wow.
Yeah. So this next week's episode is our last content swap episode of the year.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, my back just cracked.
So what are we signing?
So I was thinking hard about it because I have a few things that I think you haven't seen, but I'll just save the others for later. I had given you something that previously I gave you Trapped in Paradise because it was a movie that me and my dad watched together. Okay. And that meant something to me. Okay. I'm going to give you something that me and my mom always watched together. And that is The Last Holiday with Queen Latifah and LL Cool J.
Okay, I don't think I've seen that.
I'm very excited. I love The Last Holiday.
All right. Okay. Cool. Sounds good. I'm giving you a completely tonally different holiday movie.
If you've never seen it.
I've got a sense here. Queen Latifah has her own brand of humor that can be very funny. It's just the polar opposite in vibes to what I'm giving you, which is It's a Wonderful Life, the old Jimmy Stewart movie. Holiday movie. It's in black and white.
Yeah, the movie everyone references to in modern Christmas movies, and I'm like, I've never seen it.
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
I've only seen it once, and I watched it during Christmas, like, I want to say 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. It's good.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll see.
All right. So, yeah, next week, The Last Holiday and It's a Wonderful Life.
They are very different.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Every time we say that a movie's very different, though, there's
always some
theme.
Common themes.
Yeah.
Watch, it's gonna be like, it turns out The Last Holiday is inspired by It's a Wonderful Life. Yeah, and we just didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the fun thing about this podcast.
Yeah, I guess so. All right. Well, see you then, and have a fun week, I guess. Yeah. I can't say rest of December yet.
Yeah.
And we'll see you then.
See ya.
All right. Bye.
Bye.